I don't love children. And so I wanted to rant about it. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if this is the first time you're seeing my face. Thanks for clicking on this video. It must be because you don't like kids either. I do story times, chit chats, and the occasional rant on this channel. And today's video is gonna be a little ranty story time. And it is going to be about some of the, just kids, just awful kids, and why I just don't love them. Now, I personally don't want children of my own, but I've never been one of those people who's like, I hate kids, I hate children.
Get your nasty crotch goblins away from me and my pure child-free standards in life.
I've never been one of those people, but I recently have been doing some traveling, a little bit for work, a little bit for pleasure, and along my travels, I came across some kids where I'm looking at them being like, golly, I don't like you. I actually think a lot of these stories have more to do with the parenting themselves. And honestly, I can't blame the parents because parenting is hard. It's the toughest job in the world. But when it starts to overflow onto the people around you and you expect me to take care of your child in a public space when I don't want to take on that responsibility, then I'm gonna make a YouTube video about it. So this video is just gonna be about some of the weird run-ins I had with kids during my travels this past week. So if you like videos like this, of story times, chit chats, and I guess sometimes getting a little ranty, then make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can follow along for future videos. Also, in case you missed my last announcement, I have started a vlog channel. So if you just like me, like hanging out a little bit more with my life and seeing what's going on in LA, make sure to go subscribe to that channel. I'll leave it linked down below. I get a little bit more personal on that channel and just show you a little bit more of my day-to-day adventures. So make sure to go follow along there. But let's get started on some of these storytime snippets of just some annoying kids. So these storytime snippets are all sequential because they all happened in this order to the point that I thought the universe was trying to send me some weird message to take my birth control, because all of these just weird little mundane things happen, but they all calculate up to one big mess of being a child hater. So I was en route to Cancun, Mexico with my sister, which was super exciting. She was traveling from New York, I was coming from LA, and so that involved me heading to the airport, then catching my flight to my layover, and then my layover to Cancun. So I pack my bags and I head to my local train station where I take the train into Union Station. And then from Union Station, I actually take a shuttle to the airport. I don't like asking people for rides. I don't like paying for Ubers. I try to take as much public transportation as I can. So on this LAX flyaway shuttle, it's like one of those big old charter buses kind of things. And they have like really nice seats. They have little chargers sort of things. And it's just a big old bus. But when you arrive to board the bus, they take all of your luggage and they put it under the bus. So that way, I don't know, it's all there and you don't have to take your suitcase onto this bus. So I load in my luggage, I head onto the bus, and I find a nice little seat. And there are like, I don't know how many seats come on a charter bus, let's say 75 maybe. So I get somewhere near the back sort of thing, and that's when a mom and her son also come towards the back, and they sit directly like next to me. Not in the seat directly next to me, but into the aisle over. And so my first thought was like, oh, why didn't you do like a little scatter thing? There was really only 10 people on this whole bus, and it kind of felt like they sat right next to me. But that was no big deal. What was a big deal was that during this entire 35-minute bus ride, this kid was on his little tablet, little iPad kid, playing some mobile game at full volume, which is already annoying, but they had taken my luggage and put it down underneath the bus, so I couldn't get my headphones. So I had to sit there for 35 minutes listening to these weird, like, cha-chings.
Bingo.
Nice, cha-ching, nice, good one.
Bingo,
Full
bingo.
score, combo, cha-ching, king, combo, cha-ching, nice, not. For 35 minutes, full volume. And the mom's just sitting there looking out the window being like, and like, of course, she probably just wanted a break from listening to her kid talk, but I had to suffer the consequences of listening to this stupid game for a half hour. So that was kid number one. I make it to the airport, a little bit annoyed, no big deal. Collect my luggage, go get my boarding pass. Now it's time to go through TSA check. You know, when you board an airplane, I don't know if you guys know this, but you have to take things out of your pockets. You have to take off your shoes. You have to load all of your stuff onto the conveyor belt and walk through the security. It's a process. Most people knows how it works. However, this next family seemed to have not understood how airports work, because as we're waiting in line for the security check, which mind you, that can take a long time. Sometimes those lines can be 20 minutes long. So we're just waiting in line, and, you know, their two children are clearly very restless. They are, you know, maybe, I'm actually not good at ages. Like, I don't know what a 5-year-old compared to an 8-year-old looks like. Let's say they were 5 and 8. No, that's too old. An 8-year-old, that's like a preteen. Or is it preteen like 10? I clearly don't have any children in my life. Let's say they were both around like 6 years old. These two kids are running amok around TSA, going under and over like the security ropes, chasing each other, trying to flat tire each other's shoes and like take off each other's shoes for some reason. And they are just causing like the biggest ruckus. And these two parents are just sitting there probably thinking, well, let themselves tucker themselves out because we have a 4-hour plane ride ahead of us and they can sleep on that. So get your energy out here, kids, right here in the security check line. No! So I'm just watching these kids just run around people. They come and like almost trip on my little roller bag carry-on, and they're like almost bumping into people. They're like going in and out of security, and we're all just kind of like, can you please control your children? Like, this is kind of obnoxious. The issue was, okay, they're standing there, their kids are running amok. At least during that time, do the other security things, because by the time they get to the front of security, they're like, oh, we have to take off our shoes? Hang on, let me untie my super laced up to my knee boots. Oh, I need to take my laptop out? Let me pull out my laptop and then put it on the conveyor. Oh, I can't have things in my pockets? Shoot, let me take out my entire pocket full of coins that I should have taken a Coinstar before I got here. Oh, what was that? I can't bring full bottles of liquid in my backpack. Let me just chug all of these bottles of water. They took like 10 minutes at the beginning of this TSA pre-check when they could have been doing that in line where their kids were causing a whole scene. But no, they just stood there and held up the line even more. And it took me 40 minutes to get through TSA pre-check because of this family and their little rowdy kids. Yeah, this video is definitely more of a rant than a story time. But it doesn't end there because, you know, their stuff goes through security, comes through on the conveyor belt. One of their bags goes to the other side. You know how that works, where it was like, oh, this bag needs to be checked sort of thing. So they hadn't fully exited yet. They were still at the very end of this conveyor belt when my stuff started coming. And so I had like several bins because I had to take out my laptop. I had to take off my shoes. They make you take off your jackets too, which is kind of annoying. And then like my backpack, whatever it was. So I had a couple of things. So I scoot everything down to the edge of the conveyor belt. And my first step is put on my shoes and try to put stuff in my backpack. One of their kids starts touching my stuff, like in the last bin. And he's just like, oh, mommy, is this one of ours? Is this our jacket, mom? And like grabs my jacket, and I have to be polite. I'm not gonna yell at this kid, but I'm like, no, that's mine. And he was just like, oh, okay. And like the parents said nothing during that time. The parents weren't like grabbing their hands or being like, hey buddy, like, no, that's not yours, don't touch. It was as if the mom just looked and then looked at me and was like, you gonna handle this? You gonna tell my kid that's your stuff? You got it? All right, cool. So that family goes off on their way. I collect all my stuff and I head to the gate for my flight. So I start heading towards my airport gate. Now I am one of those people that I arrive 2 hours early before I ever even need to be at the airport. I really am a suburban dad at heart, and it's because I get a lot of anxiety. I've missed one flight in my life, and that was enough to traumatize me for forever to make sure that I get there early enough. And so I always go and I check out my gate. But then that's where everybody kind of hangs out, and I'm like, I have like 2 hours. I don't need to be here at my gate. Let me go find a little bit more of a quiet area, so that way I can like read my book or edit TikToks. And by edit TikToks, I mean just watch TikToks for 2 hours. So I go and I find like this quiet area where there were like barely anybody kind of hanging out. But then this family comes up, and it's like a mom, a dad, and then their 2 small children, and then a baby. I know a baby. I don't know how old a baby is, but like a baby in a stroller kind of thing. And that was fine. You know, it was like, I didn't own the place, so I don't feel entitled to being like, whoa, I claimed this area first, you need to leave sort of thing. But what was annoying was how, again, I guess parents just have the mindset of like, all right, this is our free time, let the kids, you know, again, burn their energy before we go on this flight. But how they allowed their children to burn their energy was treating the neighboring seats like a big old jungle gym, but they were doing it barefoot, which I don't know why that bothered me so much. Maybe because I'm sitting in one of these seats being like, oh, was there another like grimy child climbing all over these with their bare feet and kitty litter hands? Like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but these kids are just climbing up and down, under and over all of these seats with their just like bare feet and their sweaty little palms and just going everywhere, going all around me, causing a ruckus. Now, this one didn't bother me as much because I had access to my headphones finally, because you know, the whole bus situation, I couldn't have headphones during TSA because I had to pack it all up. But I had my headphones in and I was just on my phone minding my own business. So this one didn't bother me as much, but it was still just like, oh my God, are kids just pure chaos all the time? Like I had a dog once and I needed to walk her 2 times a day and I was exhausted. But having 2 dogs that are humans that run around and you have to feed and take care of and try to corral to get on a flight, couldn't imagine. So we hop on our flight, and I bet you think that I'm gonna talk about a screaming child the whole time or like some baby crying. That doesn't actually bother me. I've had screaming children and like babies crying on the flights, but again, just a good pair of headphones and you don't even notice it. And unless you're like sitting directly next to them, thank goodness that has never happened to me. But like just use headphones and that stuff doesn't bother me. What bothered me is this next snippet, which I'm realizing now almost all of these snippets are just about apathetic parents and not actually the kids themselves. But I'm gonna do it anyway. So I'm walking to my seat. This is so weird. For some reason I had the very last aisle of the plane. I don't know if that means I'm poor. Probably, but sue me. Maybe I checked in too late. I think for my next layover, I had several hours. So I wasn't in like a rush to kind of get off the plane quickly, where being in the last seat would be kind of a negative for me. So it wasn't a big issue. And I'm one of those people too, where like when the plane lands, I stay seated until it's my turn to get up and exit my row. I don't really need to stand up to stretch out my legs. I don't need to get anything out of the overhead bins. I'll just sit and wait. So the end of the bus doesn't hurt my feelings. Well, now that I say it like that. So I start walking to the back of the plane and I was looking for the last row and I knew I had the middle seat in the last row. And so I get to the back and I realize that there is a singular small person on the aisle seat, just like a little boy. And it was because the rest of his family was across from him. Now I found this odd because in these 3 seats over here were his mom, his dad, and his littler brother. So again, ages, let's say like this little brother was 4 and this little kid was 6. I don't know. Maybe I should look up reference photo of what a 6-year-old looks like. No clue. But right away I thought it was odd of like, why would they put their kid alone and not like a parent on this side and then another parent with the 2 kids? Maybe so that way they can have like the parents in between the 2 kids. But I don't know, I thought it was kind of odd that they left their kid just alone on the seat, even though they were right there. So anyway, I look at the kid and I say like, oh, excuse me, like I'm in the middle seat right there. And this kid, let me show you what he did. It was so funny. So I'm like, excuse me, like I'm that seat right there, like trying to be nice. This kid was just another iPad kid, does not look up from his little device and just goes, and I don't know if you could see that, but he just puts his knees up, doesn't look up, doesn't make eye contact, barely acknowledges me, just puts his feet up, which is fine because he's a little man, he's a little tiny human, so I could theoretically scooch past him. I would just have to avoid putting my rear end in this child's face. The problem was that all of his crap was under my seat, like in the middle seat, but not even under the seat. It was just strewn about. He had like a backpack, he had cables and chargers, he had another electronic device, and it was just on the floor everywhere, as if like he had moved into the plane and already made his room a mess. Like, what's going on? And so I'm looking at his stuff. He just puts up his knees, and I kind of glance over to his family, his parents, and they are just in their own little world. They are just on their own devices. They had put in their earbuds being like, all right, me time, trying to finally start that new season of Real Housewives. Like, Mom, can you look over at your child? Like, and it was so odd because here is a stranger who's about to sit next to your child for the next 4 hours, and you don't even give them a glance or acknowledge like, okay, so that's gonna be the person sitting next to my son. Let me make sure my son is, oh, hey buddy, like move your stuff. Like, sorry about that. Buddy, you gotta move all your stuff. That's her seat. Didn't even look up, didn't even glance over at me. So there was just this awkward pause where I'm like, okay, I guess I'll clean up your crap. I reach over him, I grab his backpack and I start shoving his shit back into it, like all of his cable chargers, all of his stuff. I zip it up and I stuff it underneath his seat. Not even a glance from his parents. They don't even look up, not even an apology, not even an acknowledgement. It was so odd. Like, I'm just like, why am I taking care of your kid right now? What the heck? So I put all this stuff underneath his seat, and then I do this, just the world's most awkward shuffle to my seat, trying not to put my butt in this kid's face. And so I go ahead and I do that, and I finally sit down, and I'm like, golly, what a nightmare. And then it was so awkward because there was still the window seat left. So there was still another passenger coming who had to come and sit in the aisle seat. And it was the most awkward thing ever because she arrives and she goes, oh, excuse me, sweetie, like I'm the window seat. Again, this kid just, well, go on. And so then it was just like this weird conundrum of like, well, do I do that? Like I'm a grown ass adult. I can't just stick my knees up. So this kid puts his legs up. So then I stand up and I shuffle past him again so that this lady can go in, awkwardly shuffle past him, and then I do it once more. It was literally the weirdest ballet of seat assignments that I've ever seen in my life. And once again, not even a single peep, not a little glimpse up from their devices of these parents to check on their son who is making all of these strangers shuffle around them. Not a single piece of acknowledgement. So the flight goes, and luckily the kid was quiet. You know, he had his headphones in, he was playing his little games. If he had his games on loud, I would have said something. Oh, you best believe I'd peek over at him and be like, hey, can you turn that down, little bud? You're freaking annoying me. But again, earphones, like, he was totally fine. But there were two other things that happened that were so laughable to me that this was the part where I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make a video about this. So again, we're at the last row of the whole plane. The bathrooms are right behind us. And so when somebody's in the single stall of the bathroom, kind of a line forms. There was this woman in line who, she's just kind of standing there. And you know, when you're waiting in line for a bathroom, you can't really be on your phone. There's no Wi-Fi anyway. So she's just kind of standing there, just like bobbing her head. She looks down at this kid and she looks at me and she goes, oh, he's so well behaved. And my first thought is just being like, he's not mine. I don't know this kid. He's an annoying little boy who wouldn't even get out of the way so I can shuffle into my seat. Those are his parents. You tell his parents, but actually don't tell his parents because he's not even that well behaved. He's just kind of a little turd making a mess in this plane. But instead, with my mask, I just had to be like, because what am I going to do? Be like, he's not mine. No, I just kind of like quietly accepted it. Was just like, thanks. Like, I don't know. It was just so odd. I mean, I guess I could have been like, oh, he's theirs. It was just odd. I don't know. It was just so funny. But then the other super funny thing was that they were coming around for drinks. So they have the drink cart and we're the last kind of row to be served. And so they go to our row before they go to the parents' row. So they look over at this row and the kid like takes off his headphones and the flight attendant's like, something to drink? And this little boy goes, Coke. And the flight attendant, I kid you not, you guys, she looks at me and she goes, is it okay that he has Coke? And I was like, he's not my child. And so I just be like, oh, his parents are over there. And so they were like, oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, is it okay that your son has a Coke? And I guess they say yes or something. But it was the first time that these parents look up from their devices and acknowledge that they have another kid in basically in outer space to them because they forgot they had this child. And they're like, who? Oh, Bobby? Oh shit, I forgot Bobby's on this flight. Yeah, give him a Coke. It'll keep him quiet for a little bit longer. So it was just such a funny, interesting flight. And it was like a 4-hour flight. He was super well behaved. I'll give him that. But it was just like such an interesting series of events that happened with this child. And then the last story time snippet is how I landed at the next airport. I believe it was in Houston, Texas. And I had like a 2-hour long layover. And I just got stuck sitting next to this odd family again, and they were kind of the opposite of all of the other families, where all the other families were letting their kids run amok. They were like, hey, we're on vacation, you know, have a good time, go crazy, get all your energy out. Instead, this family was so bizarrely calm that they all got up and left this child. So this kid was probably more around like 10 to 12, let's say. He was definitely more of like preteen type type of age where, you know, leaving him isn't the end of the world. But there was like 2 parents and then like this kid and another smaller kid. And so the parents were like, hey, we need to take little Jimmy boy to the bathroom or to go get a bag of peanut M&Ms, whatever it is. Like, are you okay to stay here and watch all of our crap? And this 10-year-old kid was like, yeah, that's fine. So they get up and leave, which I guess is kind of bad because what's stopping me from like grabbing this kid by the arm and hopping on a plane to Zihuatanejo and starting a new life with my kidnapped child, you know? Maybe not the best place to leave a kid alone, but he was old enough that like it wasn't super out of place. But what was annoying about this kid was he looked deathly ill and didn't care. So this kid had a mask on his chin though. I don't even want to do it. He was one of those mouth coughers. And it was like one of those gross wet coughs where it was like, you have an infection, sir. Like you need to go to the hospital. Yet the thing to protect all of the people around him, the mask, was down on his chin. And so with no parental advisory being like, hey honey, like cover your mouth, do the Batman, or like put on your mask. This kid is just, as if it's a sport, trying to see how far he can make his coughs go. It's just, and then the worst, the thing that got me to get up and leave was he did one of the most dramatic fatherly like coughs where he just goes, achoo! Just bodily phlegm and snot came out of his nose. It was so graphic that it would probably be blurred on television. And what does this 10-year-old snot-nosed face kid do? Just wipes it right off onto his sleeve. Now, you know, kids are gonna be kids. The problem with that is that I currently am filming this video and I have COVID. And I'm gonna blame it on that kid coughing up into the air and it absorbing onto my skin because I was wearing a mask. No, I'm just kidding. The kid didn't give me COVID. It wasn't him. But I'd like to pretend it was because he was just so snotty and so coffee that, that it just absolutely disgusted me. So those were the weird series of unfortunate events and run-ins with children that made me go, all right, Lord, maybe I will go get that IUD after all, because I forgot to take my birth control today. In all seriousness though, I don't hate children. I don't think that individually any of these little snippets would have bothered me because kids are gonna be kids. I fully understand that parenting is the hardest job in the world, that no parent is better than any other parent, and that who am I to say that you're doing a bad job parenting kind of thing. Like, I know it's a very stressful and overwhelming and exhausting job, but I think because collectively these all happened in sequence and kind of as I'm traveling and trying not to raise my anxiety levels itself, it just felt like one after the other, that it was like, all right, maybe I don't like kids. But that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know if you guys can agree or any kind of funny run-ins you've had with children. Because kids are funny, you know? I don't hate them. I'd like to reemphasize that. I don't hate kids. This was just a bad series of events with them. But let me know your funny run-ins with children or any weird things your kids have done. But that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, make sure to follow my vlog channel so you can actually see the good parts of me traveling. I will be posting my travel vlogs coming soon for Cancun, for Mississippi, and some other fun things. So make sure to follow along there. But I will see you guys in the next video. Toodles! I follow the childfree subreddit and they call kids the meanest things on there. They call them like crib lizard, crotch dropping, crotch fruit, sperm blossom, semen demon, hump dumpling, fuck trophy, fucklet, crumb cruncher. They're so bad. All of those sound like awful swear words. I hope my video doesn't get demonetized just because of this part.